Hi, this is Harvey Hook in my kitchen giving you real dating and relationship advice, not like top 3 steps to get his pants off. Yeah. So I want to give you 5 steps which you can use to solve any argument ever. This isn't a joke. This isn't kind of some ploy. This is stuff that I've personally used to solve quite a number of arguments. Last year when I was touring around the world, if we had a dispute with, say, one of the hotels, I personally used these steps to just resolve those issues. But also I've used these steps with my private life. I've also used these steps with, coaching someone else who's going through an argument real time, going through these steps. And I want to give it to you because I really just want to kind of offer value, as much value as I can. And if you can use these steps in any way to solve your arguments, that's amazing, because I personally see people suffering with unnecessary arguments and creating unnecessary drama, and that isn't something that shouldn't actually exist. So if you're with me on this whole no drama trend, here are the steps that you can do to solve that. So the first step is to recognize how someone's feeling, because 90% of arguments actually end if you recognize how someone feels. A lot of the time when you're actually arguing with someone, it's kind of like you have a balloon. When you argue with them, their balloon of anger is kind of filled, right? If you're arguing with them, you're essentially filling that balloon more. You're not dealing with whatever going on inside their head. If you actually kind of accept it, you say, hey person, I know that you're feeling this way. I can definitely see where you're coming from. You're actually diffusing some of that air inside that balloon, inside the anger balloon, and that allows them to kind of feel loved and to kind of feel recognized. And you know what? That's what kind of most people want. A lot of people create drama because they want to feel significant, and if you do that, you're already going to solve a lot of those issues. But secondly, they're not going to have that residual when you go through the next of the steps. If your argument doesn't end here, which, like I said, 90% should end here, if it doesn't end here, their anger balloon is already going to be massively deflated, and that's incredibly important. Now, the second step is called holding your frame. Hopefully you've heard me speak of this before, but holding your frame is just the idea that no matter what, you're going to kind of lead the conversation. You have a frame, so like this video is in a frame, you have a frame in which you're going to speak. And that frame might be coming from a place of love, coming from a place of understanding, but more importantly, you're going to have a resolution, and you're going to have it amicably, and you're going to have it in a way that people both feel like they're getting something that's greater than the actual argument. So, for example, you might find the other person might be arguing with you, or arguing for the sake of arguing, or they might get off track. It is your job to hold the frame and simply just say, hey person, I understand that that's another issue, but we're talking about this issue. Or they say, but what about me? I'm quite angry, and you're like, well, I understand you're feeling that way, but it's important that we discuss the actual issue, which is XYZ, not these other issues, because they're kind of like leaves on a tree. They're not the actual issue, they're just symptoms. And when you say it like that, in a way that holds your frame, but in a nice, polite way, people are going to kind of relax. That's the thing. A lot of people also think that in order to solve an argument, if someone's angry, you need to be just as angry in order to be heard. Not all the time. Sometimes the quietest voice is the strongest voice. And if you learn to master that quiet voice, you will master anyone who can speak louder than you, because everyone listens to the person who's the quietest, because the quietest person doesn't have to speak loud. I hope you understand that. The third step is one of my favorite steps: focus on feelings. Now, this is more important if you're the one who's feeling upset, but it can also be important when someone else is feeling upset, because a lot of the time when we have arguments, it's because we're not feeling the way we want to feel. And if you're feeling upset, if they're feeling upset, it is important to focus on those feelings. Now, if it's a logistical thing, being like, hey, we can't go here, we can't go there, that's okay. But with this step, if you're feeling upset, it's important not to be accusatory, because there's a difference between criticizing and advising. If you criticize someone, you can say something like, hey, I don't like the way you are, I don't like what you're actually doing here. I don't like what you're saying because it makes me like, it does this to me. What you can simply say is, when you do X, it makes me feel Y, and I don't want to feel that way. And if they then justify their actions, they're like, hey, excuse me, well, you did this to me and it made me feel like that. You can say, back to holding your frame. You say, I know that made you feel that way, but this is how it made me feel. So what are we gonna do about it? And when you ask the right questions, you get the right answers. It's very important. Now, the next thing is to kind of bring your feelings and their feelings together. So you might be operating at different wavelengths, where they're quite feeling angry and you're quite feeling sad. It is important to bring yourself together to the same wavelength of just emotion, that you're both feeling the same thing. And that could just be exhaustion from just venting your feelings. I've seen that happen before. Or it could just be a sense of hope. Now hope is one of the biggest things when it comes to solving a relationship issue, where you kind of have a hope for the future. But it is important to come to the same wavelength, because if you aren't on the same wavelength, then you're going to have a disconnect. I remember a time in Vancouver where the person on the other end kept canceling the event. And that was just because she'd had an event before that she organized in a hotel, and she actually felt like having more than a certain amount of people wouldn't actually result in a very good event, and she'd have to clean up and it would be quite horrible. So I had to bring her to the same feeling that I was feeling, which was that it was going to be a good event. It was going to be an amazing event, which brought a whole bunch of people to the hotel and created some publicity for her. Now that's what I was feeling. There might have been something that she was feeling as well, that in some cases I would go to her, but it's about coming to the same realization. And when you come to that same realization, you're on the same level, and that's what all these steps have been trying to do at the start. Have been trying to diffuse the tension, have been trying to understand, and have been trying to bring both parties who are arguing to the same level. Now the last step is a very good step. I'll tell you after a sip of my tea. It's licorice tea, by the way. I don't have caffeine. I don't have caffeine because I'm a psychopath. The last step is to come to a resolution. Now, I'm not talking about those hocus pocus compromise resolutions where, you want to go to a movie and he wants to go to a bookstore, so you go to the bookstore for half an hour and then you see half a movie. That's ridiculous. And what I'm talking about is having a win-win situation. When you have a situation that is actually win-win, both parties win. A compromise is a lose-lose situation, where you do something that they don't want to do and they do something that you don't want to do. And then no one wins. A win-lose situation is where you win and they lose, and a lose-win situation is where you lose and they win. Now, a number of people that I know really well results in lose-win conversations where they lose and the other person wins because they feel like they need to, give to the other person first. Now, I'm a huge fan of giving. I honestly think you should always give first and ask later. But who's the person you need to give first to? This is good tea. The person you need to give first to is yourself. Because if you're overflowing with love, then you can give to other people. It's the story of a mother who had some children and they were hungry. So what she would do is she would give a little bit of her plate every meal, right? She would give more and more and more and more and more until ultimately she was starving and she was malnourished because she kept giving over a long period of time. And then ultimately she couldn't really feed the kids as much because she wasn't able to work as well. And so that's what I mean. You need to fill your own cup before you can fill other people's cup with tea. So that's why a win-win resolution is the most important kind of resolution. If you can't come to a resolution where both parties win, then you've essentially had both a lose-lose situation. Anyway, this is this video. If you did like this video, make sure to leave a like. If you didn't like this video, make sure to also leave a like. And make sure to subscribe for life and love and have the two come together. Click here for the Hook Point products, and click here to subscribe, and some playlists right here. Mwah.